I'd like to welcome everybody to the Joint Town Council Fire Station Building Committee meeting, Monday, December 16th, 2024, 6 p.m. McKinnon Council Chambers. Meeting called to order. At this time, I'd like to have the Pledge of Allegiance. Madam Secretary, agenda item number 3, roll call of the Council and Building Committee.
Councilor Lazo.
Present.
Councilor Montigny.
He'll be here. He's going to be a little late.
Thank you. Councilor Chenier.
Present.
Councilor Daniel.
Present.
Councilor Dow.
Present.
Councilor Kelly.
Present.
Councilor Marquetti.
Present.
And Councilor Ortiz. And Councilor Rivas.
Present.
We have a quorum.
Thank you.
Moving on to number 4, review and discuss the fire station building project. I'm going to look at the timeline status, scope of building specs, review the grant, finance advisor discussion, and the discussion of the next step. I just want the council to know, this has been, before I turn it over to the town manager, this issue has been mulled and bid and talked about, and we redid the certain things on the building at some point. There was a lot of work to go into where we are right now. There's been demolition, there's been relocation. So tonight what we're looking for is a approval from the town council to move forward and put it out to bid again. Once we get the final number of what the bid is, then we can discuss a game plan. But tonight, I think what we agreed to do was to listen to the timeline, scope of the building specs, review. The chief and the deputy chief have prints. They have different stuff at the fire department. If any citizens would like to stop in and have question and answer period with them, call ahead. They'll roll out the prints for you. We have them at the town hall also. With no further ado, this is one of the things that we have to do is get it done, move forward. Do nothing's not an option. So at this time, I'll just turn it over to the town manager.
Thank you. Before I start, if the secretary could just call the roll of the Fire Station Building Committee to ensure they have a quorum.
Okay. Joe Hulick. Present. Mike Langevin. Present. Dave Langevin. Present. Mike Julian. Jeff Matthew. Present. John Shudga. Present. Thank you.
They have a quorum.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So as the former chairman of the Fire Station Building Committee, I'm not going to reiterate a lot of the conversations we had about the need for the fire station or anything like that. Tonight is simply, there was a lot of conversation approximately 1 year ago about where we were at with the fire station and what the next steps would be. As everyone may be aware, and for the newer councilors that are here this evening, we did go out to bid last fall, with the bids coming in right around Christmas time, in which we found ourselves in a position where the cost for the construction came in higher than what we had anticipated and higher than the funds that we had allocated. At that time, there was conversations with the council as to, I know Councilor Marquetti was very questioning about what kind of accounts do we have? Do we scrub other accounts? Where do we find the money to build this station? And we stated at that time, we simply haven't only been on the ground for myself as the town manager for 4 months with the what we had in front of us at that time. We really didn't know where our financial standings were, what we had for debt capacity. There were a lot of unknowns, and through a lot of hard work of all our staff, our finance director, Michelle Hill, Dean Iacobucci, our financial team, and working with the Fire Station Building Committee, we had done the course of trying to get everything in line so that we could make informed decisions. Further complicating that is we were aware that we had put in for a grant with Senator Congressman Neal's office for an earmark. We were grateful that we were awarded that $1 million earmark at that time just recently. We also had worked to secure and put aside some free cash to move forward to get us to a point where we could go out to bid. Obviously, the amount of numbers that we have currently, we are chipping away, and as the chair always says, you keep knocking the tin and trying to find the best solution that you have. We have certainly looked at this station and gone through it with a fine-tooth comb as to value engineering, making sure we have the right materials, and the like. Furthermore, when we got the bids in for the construction last fall, we had 2 buildings that were still up at that time that had not been demoed, so that was part of our construction documents moving forward. We made the decision as a town and a fire station committee to take those buildings down because of safety and liability reasons. And then we also took a course of additional soil testing to see what kind of soils were within that area, because one of the contractors had informed us that there was a large contingency for some possible unknowns. So through all that, as we say, kept knocking away, saying, where are we at? What are we going to do? So we're at the point, as what the chairman said, do nothing is not an option. The goal for us this evening is to have a marching order to go out to bid, find out what those numbers are for construction, because we are in a totally different environment than we were even a year ago. Inflation has kind of stabilized. We're seeing some aggressive work and people trying to bid. We have people that come into the office all the time looking for, I think over the last 6 months, I've had a concrete vendor who's a large one, keeps coming in, want to know what's going on, where we're going out to bid. So I think we're in an environment right now that may be favorable for us to see what this cost is, and then working with our financial team, coming up with possible solutions on a what if. What if we needed some additional funds? How could we go about working within our existing financial structure and have little to no impact to the taxpayer? And that's our goal, is to minimize the impact to the taxpayer. So through tonight, the deputy chief will take us through some of where we're at. I articulate some of these things, and he will probably reinforce it. Then we'll turn it over to Michelle and the financial advisor, who will give us a rundown, because I think it's a great exercise as well, not just for the fire station, but for the town overall, to know what is our debt capacity. Where are we at with the borrowing for roads, schools, water, sewer, things like that. So tonight we'll concentrate on the general fund and the borrowing for that and how the impact of that could be to the town, and give a sense to the council of some central direction where we think we should go. So with that, if it's okay, Mr. Chairman, I'll turn it over to Deputy Chief Hulick.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, councilors, and the public as well. Thank you for having us this evening. It's been almost 10 years since the committee was reestablished. I've been on this committee since the early 2000s, and in 2015 it was reestablished with some new members. So we're approaching 10 years since that point started. Building from there, we came up with a needs assessment and developed what they call a program for what the building might look like and how big it might need to be. At that point in time, it was estimated at 36,000 square feet is the space that we would need to accommodate the items that we currently have room for expansion, and to deal with things that would come in the future. Over time, we looked at multiple sites. We looked at a total of 5 sites that were brought forward, and we ended up moving forward with this Worcester Street site. The Worcester Street site, based on the size of the site and configuration of the property, the building was adjusted to 29,000 square feet, and it also had a 3,000 square foot outbuilding to accommodate the ancillary equipment. From that point, we moved forward with a debt exclusion vote in 2021, which was favorable, and at that point in time, the debt exclusion was for $25.7 million. COVID happened. It had impacts. We will talk about it for many years to come. None of us could have anticipated the things that it impacted, including the extreme real estate spikes, which led to $1.5 million more than it anticipated in acquisition of the property. CBRE is a Fortune 500 real estate and construction investment firm. They look at historical escalations in construction and real estate costs of about 5%. In the years since we've voted the debt exclusion, we've seen almost 40% of an increase. We had 2 years in the midst. 1 year was an 11.5 real increase, and the year after that was 14.5%. So nearly 3 times historical escalation. Current estimates bring us through June of 2025. What have we done to cut some costs? The outbuilding that was initially proposed on the site has been removed from the design, which alleviated about 3,000 square feet with a value of $1.9 million. The square footage has been reduced at this point to just under 27,000 square feet in the building, which also has reduced by $1.73 million. We have value engineered fixtures, we've value engineered finishes, things in the building that reduce costs by another $137,625. So in addition to looking at real impacts, we have cut nearly $4 million from the project as we've moved forward. What other funding sources have we come up with? We have a USDA grant that can be applied to the firematic equipment in the building and furnishings, things like that, not to the general construction of the building. This past year, we received an earmark for $1 million from the USDA through Congressman Neal, and where that impact is being applied is to reimbursing the acquisition of property. That way it does not have the Buy America, Build America impact to our construction project, because quite honestly, that would produce more increases than the $1 million was worth. So at the end of the project, that $1 million will be reimbursed to us for property acquisition. The state at this point has committed $12,500, which was applied towards the demolition of property. Currently, Representative Marcy has an earmark of $250,000 for us in the current proposal. Obviously, that is not voted yet, but it seems favorable at this point. A former firefighter that passed away in the past year, his family sought donations to the station, which ended up being about $9,000. So we have $2,184,500 in grants, earmarks, and donations at this point. Questions have come of what the impact would be financially to reduce the size of the building. Where the committee stands at this point is we have cut nearly 10,000 square feet out of the building from its original program and do not feel that it would be effective with a smaller footprint at this point. To remove a bay, the estimates at this point would be a savings of $900,000. To gain that $900,000, a 10% redesign cost and bidding document change would be implemented. So roughly $90,000, so it would potentially be a net of $810,000. To the impact to the building, we would have the same amount of bays that we have right now. Backing things up, we have things at the Morris Street Fieldhouse. We have things in a storage unit at the DPW on Gulfwood Road. We tend to leave our trailer either outside the back of the station or sometimes in the sewer treatment plant. If you took all of the square footages of places that we leave things and even count the attic space in our fire station, we're about 30,000. So there is no more room for square footage to be reduced in the building and it still be effective for us. Another comment that's been made that we've heard is removing the tower off of the front. Obviously, you can see there that there is somewhat of a remnants of the tower that's on our building now, and it has 2 features. One is for training, and 2 is for hose drying when necessary, and to keep some of the image of the original building that we exist in now. That savings is estimated at $700,000. Again, roughly 10% to redesign and change the bid documents. Anytime that we make changes to the plan as it sits, there is redesign fees and hours that go into that. There is no magic wand that just waves it and saves money. So any changes that we make at this point have a financial impact in the redesign and changes to bid specifications. The impact to us, if we remove the building, we would not have areas on site to train. Part of the training features of this is windows and ladder implements that would allow us to throw ground ladders to the building, do rescues from windows, do high angles out windows, and high angles within inside the facility from the anchor points inside. What's been spent to date? As town manager pointed out, we have acquired properties. We have design services that were secured. We have a project manager secured. We purchased properties. We demoed those properties. To date, we have spent $4,957,002.13. What we're looking for from you this evening is support of the financial plan that's proposed and an early January 25 decision for us to go back out to bid. In order for us to go out to bid on time, early January is when the decision has to be made, which would put our bidding documents out on the street in March, likely seeing our bids come in May and securing contracts before the end of June. What are some of the obstacles that we face there? Right now, the state has pushed out the change in building code from the 9th edition to the 10th edition until the end of June. So we have until the end of June to submit permits with this design with no changes. If we go beyond June 30th, there has to be design changes and further delays and cost to accommodate those building code changes. Before you, I have some images of the potential station. These have been on this fire station's website for a year at this point. The documents in front of you are a full set of plans and the full set of bid specifications from last year's bidding. They've been available in the town manager's office for the last year. And obviously myself, the chief, any of the members of the committee are always available to answer questions. So these photos or renditions are what the building could look like. What you see before you now is the elevation from Worcester Street. You see the administrative side of the building on the left. You see the bays. There are 7 bays. And then the tower, training tower. This is the left side of the building, the far Worcester Street side, and this would be the public parking area. Currently, it's designed, obviously, with accommodating handicap parking. There was also programs through National Grid to have charging units in place. So, obviously, the infrastructure would be in place for them to be put in by National Grid. This is the look from the Snow Street side. Essentially, that's the side of the tower and a little bit of the back of the building. Where those 2 individuals on the far left are, that's some of the training spaces where the ladders would be thrown to the exterior of that tower. This is the rear of the building, which would be facing Henry Street Field. Also seeing some of the value engineering features at this point on the right-hand side there, the gray areas. That is a steel panel. The original design was brick throughout. Our value engineering, which made significant impact on the exterior, was the steel panels with a studded wall and insulation behind it. It actually ended up with a better insulating value and lower cost. This is another angle of that building. More parking in the rear. This is the front lobby of the fire station. Obviously, there is extensive amount of history within our facility, and we want to take that with us. The display cases would show that, and obviously Tiger 7 used to sit behind you, behind the dais, and it's been in storage since the bicentennial, and it will be in the front lobby of the fire station with this design. The kitchen accommodating the size of group potential of things of the future, along with storm coverage. For larger storms, other larger incidents, we tend to have 2 shifts in place. This is only one angle of the kitchen. It would be 2 tables facing in the other direction to accommodate people. This is the training room, alongside also with a dual purpose of public space as well as the Emergency Operations Center. So any large disaster or a large incident in the community, this would be designated as the Emergency Operations Center. We used the police station during COVID. This would be technology set up for multiple phone connections, obviously screens, data throughout the room in different configurations. This is the exercise space. I'd point out that the exercise equipment that's in there is the equipment we currently have. We received a grant a few years ago from Maya to replace our equipment, and we'd be bringing that with us. There were no additional exercise implements. One of the key features to the fire station and moving forward was decontamination for the firefighters after a fire. This video next that I will show you depicts coming back dirty from a scene and coming out clean the other side. It shows a firefighter essentially walking from an apparatus into the decontamination area where they'd be able to remove their PPE, remove their air pack, clean it, wash their gear, shower, and be clean on the other side. So that's a quick walkthrough of that point. Everything else is before you here, the full set of plans, the site plan, different spaces I did. Are there any questions that I can answer?
Councilman Marquetti?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, through you. You say you've spent about $4.9 million to date.
Correct.
So where did that money come from?
That money was short-term borrowing because we have the authorization to build the fire station through the debt exclusion, so we've done short-term borrowing right now until we go out to bond for the full project.
All right. Thank you.
Any other questions?
That's it.
Council Kelly?
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chairman. What do we expect the useful life of this new building to be? How long do you think, how long will it last as a fire station?
So it's hard to say that anything could give us the 125 years of the current facility that we've been in. Things just aren't built that way. The absolute minimum would be 50 years and looking to 75.
Thank you.
Council Rivas?
Through you, I appreciate the kind of like the redesign and sort of taking things out. Is there potential to add sort of like the outbuilding later on if there's ever funding to bring that back? I know that some of the
Yes, there
outdoor-
is. In the bid specifications, we included channels for the infrastructure to run out to the corner where that building would be, so we would not have to go through anything afterwards, that the channels would be conduits would be laid for that, and there was some discussion with Peg Dean about seeking some additional funding sources to have a dual use to that outbuilding of potentially some restroom facilities for the Henry Street field and storage of lawn mowing equipment, things like that. But the potential is there, yes.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? Councilor Senya?
I don't know if this is the time for that. How much did the building come in when it went out for bid? How much was the bid?
The lowest bid received was $22,536,736.
Did that include demolition of the property, or was that,
No, that was a separate item.
so demolition of the property, acquisition of the property, and the moving of the residents and all that?
Had already been,
Already been done.
was dealt with in another manner. Obviously, we had already acquired the properties, and we went out separately for the demolition of the car dealership first, and then it did include the demolition of the two residential facilities, but after the bid came in too high, we set that as a separate project as well because of the security issues that we had with the building.
So the 4.9 million included all that acquisition, land taken, the
Correct.
demolition of the property, and those kind of things?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Any other discussion? Council Montague?
Thank you. So it already went out to bid once? Okay, so what would we be at right now total if we were to accept a bid now? I know we're not going to, but.
We don't know what the bid is. We're
don't
going
know.
out
We-
to bid.
Oh, I
We
thought you
don't-
already did go out to
No.
bid.
No, the
So
goal
we
was
went,
to go out to bid.
we went to bid about a year ago,
Uh-huh.
and the low bid was $22,536.
So plus 4.99?
And then there's additional soft costs.
Okay.
And the escalation, like I said, is essentially about 40%. So the rough math is there.
So it's more like 28 at the time being, and you're trying to go out to bid to lower it back down to 25.7?
Correct.
Okay, I just want to make sure I'm understanding
I think,
numbers.
I think the
We-
question in front of us here tonight, I respect the presentation, of course, I've seen it a few times, and I understand the building side of it. We want to direct the building committee to go out to bid again. Let's find out what that solid number is now, and then we will discuss the finance as far as actually taking a financial move on it. I think tonight we brought in a person to present a financial plan, to enlighten the councilors on a lot of the stuff in the moving parts of this fire station, to understand what we're doing there. There's so much talk on the street that is false, that we need to know what is it and how much is it going to cost before we go to the bank and borrow that money. Tonight is one of those times that the town manager and myself said, enough is enough. Let's have a building committee presentation, shoot and salute, go out to bid, find out the number, and deal with it. Do nothing's not an option. So again, tonight is one step to find out which way do we go. Mr. Town Manager?
Yeah, thank you. We'll get to the financial because I think that is the important piece next. But just so everybody knows, the specs, the only change that is being done into the specs when we go out to bid right now is the fact that we have taking out the two houses that were on Snow Street. So we have not changed the design from the original design from the last time we went out to bid. So the square footage of the building is going to be exactly what we put out before, 27,000 square feet. So we had the add alternate for the outside building, the outbuilding, Councilor Rivas, so that was an add alternate. But we did, I believe the plans had for any conduits was going to be part of the base bid, but the building itself was going to be an add alternate. So we had that add alternate, and so that, I just want to make that
Go
clear.
ahead.
So, and then I want to go over the
I
financials.
just want to, the town manager came up with a good point earlier. When we were going into the site, everybody was worried about dirty dirt, is it, you know, what's underneath the ground? The one thing that's gone is all that testing. Whoever's bidding this job is not going to put the $1 million to cover just in case. So in other words, we've removed some of the, what we call the boogeyman under the ground, where people are not going to have to put these contingencies into the bid. So it's kind of got a different spin to it, but I think going forward, we need to know what that final number is, if we're gonna go forward, that's to go out for another bid. Comment?
Now, just change it over to Ben Oglesby and Michelle Hill for the financial piece, because that is the important part of this dialogue.
Good evening. Thank you for asking us to attend. I had Ben Oglestein from UFASA, which is part of Unibank that we do our business through. He is our financial advisor, and he is actually just going to run through and kind of give you an understanding where we are with our current debt and how we can place this fire station in that scheme of everything. I'm going to hand out all the his presentation. So.
Good evening, everybody. Ben Oglesby, Unibank Fiscal Advisors. I'm not going to go through every single page of this unless a question leads us there. So I kind of wanted to start at a high level, and then we can kind of move down from there. If you could look at page 2 to start, I've presented a kind of where the town's debt is currently. And basically, there's 3 major components. The town has about $7 million in outstanding debt related to water projects. It has about $10 million in sewer-related debt, and about 14.7 in general fund, what we call general fund debt, for a total of almost $32 million. That's as of June 30th of '24. In the general fund debt, which is what I'm going to really focus on this evening, that $14.7 million in general fund debt is pretty much school projects, the 2013 B school bonds and the 2021 school bonds. So that's kind of the big picture. If you could go with me to page 5. Page 5 is kind of a year-by-year debt payment schedule for the town, starting in 2025 and out for over 30 years. So a couple of things here. In the first, I've kind of got it color-coded. If you look at the gray bars in the bottom left-hand corner, that's your current general fund debt service. That's your principal and interest payments that you make on a yearly basis, basically to cover those outstanding school bonds. And if you'll notice, in fiscal year 25, that gray bar totals about 2.2 million, call it. And then the next year, it drops down by a couple of 100,000. And then it drops another couple of 100,000 in 2027. It pops up a little bit in 28. It goes way down in 29. And then 30, 31, 32, all the way out to 35. So basically, the current outstanding general fund debt of the town is paid off by 2035. And as you can see, it kind of goes down, not every year, but pretty consistently downward track. So that's kind of the outstanding debt. The next piece is in red, and that is proposed financings that you've already authorized. You have road paving projects that you authorized in the amount of $10 million. Some of that has already been issued, and that's the other little piece of your general fund debt, that not including the schools. But so what I did here was I kind of assumed that we issue some of those road paving bonds just to kind of show you what it would look like. And it basically, with the gray and the red combined, you're not really increasing your debt service over year from where it is now. Okay? Skip the orange for a minute. Okay, that's the big fire station project. The blue at the very top, the dark blue, that is if the town were to authorize an additional $3 million, say, and we just kind of threw a number at it. What if the town were to authorize an additional $3 million and pay it off over the same term as the larger fire station project? What would it look like? And as you can see, It's a relatively modest amount in each year. So that's kind of, if we were to issue the bonds, issue the debt for the fire station as authorized already, this is what the debt service would look like for the next 20, 30 years. So I just kind of wanted to give you a big picture. Do remember, however, that the fire station project is excluded from Prop 2.5. So it doesn't really factor into when you're thinking about your annual levy limit, it's kind of in its own separate category. So in kind of a mental, if you're thinking about operating budget of the town, you can kind of pull that orange piece of it out, okay? So you do have quite a bit of planning space to stay within your Prop 2.5 levy limit year by year, excluding the fire station, which has been debt excluded. So I just kind of wanted to show that to you. Any questions on that?
Any questions, councilors?
Okay. So one of the things that we looked at was, if you go to the first page now, so this is kind of getting to the deputy chief's point about timing. Just to let you know, the town has outstanding bond anticipation notes that mature in May 30th of 2025. And that would be an opportune time to do any kind of additional financing. So to kind of kill two birds with one stone. That bond anticipation note comes due. The town could, at that point, renew the ban for another year, borrow additional money as needed for road projects, fire station, whatever. And then the plan that I showed you, that chart I showed you a minute ago, assumes that we issue the bonds in 2026. So like a year and a half from now, basically, will be when the bonds are issued. Going back to the chart on page 5, I'm assuming that all the bonds are issued, that all of the debt that's been authorized is issued. And so it's basically kind of a fully loaded debt service schedule. We did look at ways to kind of adjust principal payments in certain years to kind of adjust the timing of the payments, and that's something that we'll probably be doing for quite a while before any kind of debt is issued. But I just kind of wanted to show you, this is kind of a first blush. As far as interest rate assumptions, on any kind of bond anticipation notes right now, 3.25 is kind of the number we're using for bond anticipation notes. For the bonds themselves, I assumed 4% over, say, a 25 to 30 year period. That's probably a little high compared to where we are now. If we were to go to market today, it would probably be 3.75, but I put a little bit of cushion in the bond interest rates. Any questions?
Any questions, councilors? Councilor Senior?
What happens to the bond capacity for the community for future things, like a new school, the repairs to the town hall, things like that? What happens to the town's bonding capacity or effect should we go with the fire station and the additional money?
Right, and so to answer your question, I'll go back to the chart on page 5. And what I'm looking at to answer a debt capacity type question is I'm looking at the gray bar, the red bar, and the little blue piece at the top. If you can kind of mentally take that orange piece out and let the blue thing at the top drop down, that's kind of what so your debt service would still have kind of a trajectory that's going down over time. And what that tells me is that you would have the capacity to put on additional debt authorizations in the future that have not even been brought forward, like other capital needs, school, whatever. So you do have some planning of capacity.
But under like 2036, I'm going to say the assumption's being made that there is no general debt by this chart. Am I correct?
That's right, yes. Your current debt is paid off in 2035.
And we're also assuming under 2038 that we're no longer going to have any road debt also.
No.
That's not quite right. So what I did was I didn't allocate all the road debt. There's 5.5 million still of authorization still remaining. So if the town decided they wanted to issue that additional 5.5, it would make those red pieces just a little bit taller, a little bit bigger. But it would still, I think, 5.5 million over like a 15-year period would be something, but it would not, you would still have that, I think you'd still have that downward trend in your overall debt service. So I think you could put all the roads on, I think, and still the chart would look about like it does now. Maybe, I probably would take the road debt out a couple of more years, like 34 and 35, for instance. You see where there's that big drop off. I would probably put if we did the additional 5.5 million, I would probably allocate some of that to those years and then the years afterwards. It would just depend on how fast the money got spent and how fast you needed to borrow it.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions? Council Rivas?
Thank you, through you. On page 1, when you have the new money for road paving, so your recommendation is that to kind of bundle like more, like new construction or, new upgrades
Yeah,
with the bond for the fire station? Is that?
Yeah, it kind of makes sense. Generally speaking, if you're going to borrow for things, if you can kind of combine things, you get more efficient financing.
Just here.
Town manager?
Yeah, the 2 million is the anticipated East Main Street borrowing that we have to do for that project. It's already been authorized, we got it under contract, so that's the borrowing for East Main Street.
Okay, so it wouldn't be anything on top of that?
That 2 million is already a project that we've already contracted for.
I think with all the talk about roads in the past 3 or 4 years, I think that this is why Ben has put the numbers where they are, because we're going to continue. You can't just stop doing roads after, turning the corner and pushing the way we've been pushing, so we're going to continue that. Ben?
I'm sorry.
Yeah, we would continue to do roads. We have the authorization up to 10 million to do it. It would just be the next planning process about where we borrow that, what's the next project in the queue. So we have the authorization, council has already authorized it, it's already planned for within the financial advisor. So it's planned at 10 million. So like he says, we're up about 5 million with all the projects that we have right now. It would be the additional 5 million for any future projects, going along with grants as well.
But this doesn't show that additional $5 million.
He can certainly add it in. It's
Yeah, I
not-
can
like
add
you
that
said,
in
it's
if you
not gonna
like. Right now, I've left you with about 5.5 million of roads unissued.
Any other discussion by council? Questions? No. Ben?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Excellent.
So I guess just to wrap up, Mr. Chairman, the goal for us is to plan with the project manager and our architects to get that bid spec prepared so that we can go out and put that out onto the street so we can get a good competitive bid. And then with the knowledge that we have, get a number so that the council can digest where we're at.
Council Marquetti?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Looking at this agenda here, unless I missed something, you were going to talk about grants and other funding sources. Did you already talk about that? I don't recall that being brought up. What other?
Deputy Hulick went through all the grants that and the monies
Correct,
that we
but
received.
there are other funding sources of the capital budget items that you were talking about?
So for the purposes of this meeting, we do have some capital stabilization funds. We have other capital. This was purely an exercise. If we had to borrow, what are we going to do?
Okay.
So there are other things that as a financial team that we can take a look at. We can take a look, perhaps once free cash is certified, is there an amount in free cash that we want to do? Is there other, we're scrubbing the capital accounts that we have, old capital accounts. I went through that today, the whole exhaustive list. I'm going to refine it with Christine, but that was, a couple $100,000. So we'll take a look at all this. This was simply for us. And the goal, like we've said earlier, that we've had this conversation in the financial team is we have different buckets of money. This exercise right here is to let's get the number for the bid and a what if, right? So if it came in a little higher, what if, and how do we address it so that we can sign a contract? That's the goal that we're looking at.
Okay. I don't really see anything on here about the need for a vote. If you want to go out to bid, go out to vote.
I think,
don't
I
see
think
anything
what we're
on the
trying to do
agenda.
is, if the council, is anybody opposed going out for bid? I don't think anybody's opposed to it. I think tonight what we're going to do is basically, here's your information, let's go find out what that final number is. And I know the people surrounding this fire station and working on it are going to continuously look for money. I mean, it wouldn't be bad if a senator walked in from another appropriation body and put more money to it. That's not going to stop looking for avenues. But this is a solid plan on that if the number comes in, that we can probably handle it. But the thing is, tonight, we're going to be moving forward unless this council is opposed to going out for another bid, which I don't see.
Thank you, Chair.
Councilor Dow.
Thank you, through you. So we have to move quick because by June you say 30, if we don't act on the permit, will be more cost?
Correct.
You
They
have
would
any-
have to adjust to the new code edition, and that takes man-hours, computer time, all of those things, and then adjusting the bid documents to go along with that.
So how long, when you go out for a bid, will take?
So right now, if we have the ability to move forward in the beginning of January, the actual bid documents would hit the street in March, and then we would see the return sometime in May, and then we have that window before the end of June to secure the contract and apply for permits.
Okay, so meantime, you can't go to bank and start asking for money before you have the final bid, or you can start now shopping for the bid we have already?
We're going out for bid again, so we don't have a crystal ball. We don't know what that's going to come in. People can estimate it all day long, but until the contractors actually show up and start putting their numbers together, we're not going to know what the actual bid is.
So by the time you get the bid back, you need some more time to shop for the money?
No, I think we've provided some avenues this evening about what we can do. And it's a good solid plan. We're in a much better spot than we were a year ago. So we have identified what some of the potential avenues that this council could vote on. So the goal is get the number, let's get the number, and then we can come back aggressively and find out. So when we get the bid back, we're going to know, is it close? Have we knocked it down? Is the environment favorable for us that we are getting good solid bids? We're closer with that number, less borrowing, whatever. The goal would be to hopefully not borrow any money, but we have identified a pathway for us to complete this project.
Okay, thank you.
Councilor Kelly?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, through you. Maybe the town manager can answer this question, but in listening to the presentation tonight, it seems, I got the impression that we're looking for this body to approve some kind of a authorization to go out to bid.
Second.
All right, and so it seems to me that we would need to have some kind of motion on the floor in order to do that.
Actually, the authorization is that the Fire Station Building Committee just takes action to go out to bid and see where the numbers come in.
So are we,
Am I correct on that?
Yes.
Yes.
so we're not looking for an approval from this body?
Not to go out to bid. We're taking the information that we have, go out to bid. Fire Station Committee will go out to bid, get the numbers, come back to this body with any additional financing that needs to be made.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Through you. I think it's more to the public to know what's going on because it's been 1 year and we don't come forward the camera and tell the public where we're at. It's pretty much to people understand where we're at, what we're doing, and to move forward with the project. Thank you.
I think it's also important, the reason why we came here is because councilors were like, where are we? What's happening? I don't know. So coming forward is, now we're going full steam ahead. Let's go out for bid, which everybody's in favor of, and when the bids come in, we're going to immediately handle it. It's coming off the back burner, it's going on the front burner, and we got to get cooking and get it done. That's what we're talking about. And the financial means were all laid out ahead of time, trying to show everybody, especially the council. The council's gonna vote up or down in what to do once the price comes in. Councilor Shinnick?
Just to clarify, I guess, to the building committee or the town manager, we go out for bid January, opening the bids March.
No, the
No.
bids would be open sometime in May.
May.
In
The-
May.
The
May,
bid,
yeah.
the bid
Goes out in March.
specification goes out on the street in March. Obviously, it's a significant document to review. They have multiple contractors and subcontractors that they have to get with before they can actually put their packages forward, so it would be sometime in May that we would be reviewing the bids.
So you review the bid in May.
Generally, we would
If
have
it's a
45
question of
days.
finances, come back to the council for approval or disapproval.
Yep.
And by that time, you're in the new building code.
No.
No,
No,
As long as we secured
We're in
contracts
this
before the end.
process. It's the process that we've started, we're in. We started the process and pull a permit, whatever we have to do to beat the actual, the code out doing where we're going. We're fine on that, code. Councilor Rivas?
So I don't know, I'm just following up on what Councilor Kelly asked. So we don't officially need something as a motion or on the record saying we are approving them to go forward?
This is more of a consensus. Council, this is where we're at. The Fire Station Building Committee took the vote the last time to go out to bid. And then the numbers came in, and we were at a point where we couldn't have a plan.
This was major league information for the council and for the public to be transparent and showing the building committee is moving, and it seemed like we stalled as a community. And now what we're trying to do is put paddles on it, let's get it going. And I think we're gonna move forward with the bid for starters, and then we'll deal with the financing when it comes in. Any further discussion? Thank you very much.
Thank you
Appreciate
all.
your presentation. Moving on to agenda item number 5, adjournment.
So moved.
Motion second, all those in favor? Opposed, unanimous of all present.